Hi everyone, I'm Noreen from Art to Now, and we did wine tasting in Tuscany. So now we want to try the nuance of Italian wine, which is Sicily. We're gonna drive through the slopes of Mount Etna, and we're gonna visit two wineries. And at the end, I'm gonna tell you which one was my favorite. And one of the wineries we're actually gonna visit is the one featured in the White Lotus. So I am excited. I am ready for some Sicilian wine, and I think we're gonna have fun. Once we landed in Catania, the first thing we did was rent a car. For us, renting a car was more convenient since we only had 4 days in Sicily and wanted to do a mini road trip around the island. If you're planning to drive in Sicily, I recommend getting an international driver's permit in case you get pulled over by the police. That only happened to us once in Catania, and we were so happy we had the permit. All we had to do was show it to the police officer and they'd let us continue driving with no problems whatsoever. Another pro tip, and this applies to any car rental you ever do moving forward, and that is to make sure that you take a picture and even a video of the car you're renting before driving off. This saved us big time. We picked up our car from Catania and dropped it off in Palermo, so we visited two different car rental offices. There was a dent in the car we rented, and the only thing that saved us from not being charged extra was having the video proof that the dent was already there. Driving in Catania was easy. The roads are well paved, except for driving through the slopes of Mount Etna, an active volcano, to go wine tasting. We drove through many dirt roads there, but it was still okay. If, for example, you wanted to go wine tasting and did not rent a car, you would have to book a wine tasting tour that would pick you up and drop you off at your hotel. I created a wine route for you guys to follow with my top 9 wineries I wanted to visit. The route heads from Catania to Taormina, our end destination, driving through the slopes of Mount Etna. I'll also share the pros and cons of each one and why I chose the ones I did during my visit, because I obviously did not go to 9 wineries in one day. We made reservations at 2 of them. I'll share my experience at each one, and I'll also give you the whole layout of our route because it's an easy to follow route and the wineries are back to back, one after the other, so it's so much fun, especially if you have a designated driver. My friends often ask me, is Sicily good for wine tasting? And I have to say yes. Sicily is up and coming in the wine world, and I enjoyed the wines and the experience more than my wine tasting time in Tuscany. I know some of you might find this statement a bit controversial. After all, Tuscany is a staple for Italian wine, but I dare you to try something new and give wine tasting in Sicily a try. We loved our experience. The wines were fantastic, the scenery, the landscapes, and everything. And it's an island, so you're tasting amazing wine on an island. So, which is better for wine tasting, Tuscany or Sicily? Both regions had fantastic wine. If you're limited in time and have to choose, I would pick depending on your likes and your personality. If you're into visiting art galleries and medieval towns while eating some meat delicacies, then I recommend Tuscany. Sicily has more of an island, laid-back yet upscale vibe depending on where you visit. In Sicily, you'll also find Greek temples, volcanic landscapes that you can trek for all my adventure seekers out there, and plenty of decadent seafood dishes. So let's say you decided to go wine tasting in Sicily, which is why you're watching this video. If you're wondering where the best wine region in Sicily is, that would be the slopes of Mount Etna, which is home to some of the most renowned vineyards in Sicily. Nero di Avola is the most important red wine grape in Sicily and is one of Italy's most important indigenous varieties. Here are other grapes grown in Sicily. Now that we know a little bit more about the grapes, it's time to head on to some vineyards. Our starting point will be Hotel Villa Romeo, but you can adjust your starting point depending on your itinerary. Our first stop is just a 14-minute drive to Etna Urban Winery. This winery offers experiences, so you can walk through the trails or do one of their gourmet tastings, both of which actually sound really cool. On a tour, you learn about the history of winemaking in Sicily. They offer different tours and packages depending on the month and time you visit. What's cool about this winery is that they provide year-round packages, so you can always visit, even if it's off-season. They also offer a shuttle service from Catania, which is great if you decide not to rent a car or book a guided tour. The only downside for me about this winery is that their tastings are in group settings, so they have a fixed time. I want to go back and do the wine and ceramics class. It looks so cool. My husband and I collect mugs from all the countries we visit, so making one while traveling would be a neat experience for both of us. Now, something really cool. They actually sell this bottle of wine at my local wine shop in NYC. So every time I want to daydream that I am in Sicily, I pour myself a glass from my NYC apartment and relive my time near Mount Etna. From Etna Urban Winery, we'll drive 43 minutes to our second winery, Gambino. We made a reservation online for this winery and booked the lunch and wine tasting. This was my favorite wine tasting experience in Sicily. You can book an appointment at Gambino at any time you want, which was very convenient for us. Getting there was not the easiest, but it was not hard at all either. They have plenty of signs for us to follow along the way. What made the drive a bit more challenging was that our GPS, for some reason, took us through some dirt roads at times, but we found our way nevertheless. This entire area in general is filled with vineyards, so if you get lost, you'll end up at another one, so hey, it's all good. Arriving at Gambino and our time at Gambino in general was one of the highlights of our trip. The wine tasting venue at Gambino is elevated, so you can see the vineyards and the beautiful landscape from above. When you arrive, they give you a mini tour of the land with a complimentary tasting and explain why the soil surrounding Mount Etna is so unique and special for wine production. And then you're invited to savor and indulge in the local wine and cheeses of the area. Our tasting included 4 glasses of wine from their current vintage, paired with vegetable preserves, a selection of Sicilian cheese, couscous with vegetables, local cold cuts, a hard-boiled egg, bread, olive oil produced by Gambino themselves, and grilled pork meat sausage. For dessert, we had a small Sicilian cannoli stuffed with cream ricotta cheese. Everything was delicious and paired excellently. These were the selection of wines we tried. We had an excellent time here. What's really cool about Gambino is that they're not stingy with their wine. They even ask you, did you like that one? Do you want more? A full glass? And this is at no additional cost, so they're not trying to upsell you or anything. The hospitality here was on point. That's part of why I didn't make it to the other 5 wineries on my list. I'm never going to say no to free Vino. We had such a great experience at Gambino, and we didn't even want to leave. I would have been okay with just going to that one winery alone. It was magical. It was a great time. If you can only visit one winery on the slopes of Mount Etna, go with Gambino. You won't regret it. Something worth mentioning if you're driving in Sicily is that once you get off the highway, the streets will be narrower. So that's something to keep in mind if you're planning on renting a car. Other wineries you can visit near Gambino if you want to continue wine tasting and not drive too far are Etna Viviera Winery and Sicilio Tenuta di Valle. You can also add Emilio Etna wine, making your total journey 52 minutes, stopping at 5 wineries. However, we wanted to visit the White Lotus Winery, and if you're a fan of the show, leave a comment below. So after Gambino, we headed straight to Planeta, a 24-minute drive. Planeta has many wineries throughout Sicily, so this is something to keep in mind when making a reservation here, so you reserve to the right one. You'll see the different regions on their website. We wanted to visit the one from the White Lotus, and that winery is Etna, so it's located on the slopes of Mount Etna. Once you're on the Planeta website, you have different experiences to choose from. We chose the White Lotus Wine, Art, and Landscape experience. You need to make a reservation ahead of time, and I recommend you do this for all the wineries you want to visit. I'll link all the wineries below. Go to their website and choose your favorite ones. That's what we did, and we ended up going to Gambino and Planeta. Planeta's tours are also in a group setting, so they're less flexible than Gambino's. The tour includes visiting the vineyards, tasting 5 wines and their local olive oil, and some bites. You can select just the tour or the tour with lunch. After the show, the winery inflated their prices by more than half. From my personal experience, the tasting is a bit overpriced, especially when comparing Gambino versus Planeta. This is a great time to mention that this video is not sponsored. I paid for both wine tasting experiences, and this is my review of both wineries. This is how I felt, and this is my personal experience. The road is fine while driving to get to Planeta, and there's enough signage along the way guiding you. The only thing I enjoyed about the wine tour at Planeta was that you walk through the vineyards while you taste each wine and see where the grapes are growing. So it's like the grape that's on your glass is growing right there next to you. So that was really cool to watch, but that was about it. I love that I can find the wine in the US. I bought a few bottles in NYC before visiting the winery, so I was really excited about this wine tasting. This here is where the famous wine tasting scene from the White Lotus took place. Another thing I found cool was that when you are in the winery, they have on display the different types of soil from all the vineyards. This influences the flavors of the grapes and the notes of the wines from the land that it's growing and that specific winery in general. I thought that was really neat to see the different soils labeled from all the different wineries. With your glass, they also give you a glass holder, bib type of thing that you can put around your neck. This was my first time getting one of these, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. Do you guys find it useful? As I mentioned before, you can walk through the vineyard while tasting each wine, which was cool. The location is beautiful and feels more intimate and secluded compared to Gambino. At Planeta, you get one pour, no extras, and it's a small pour for the price. It's a regular pour for wine tasting, but when you compare it to Gambino's generous pours for half the price, it stings a little. We tried 5 different wines and had a great time, but who's gonna have a lousy time wine tasting? Come on. These were the snacks we got with our tasting. I had a great time in Sicily. I am so glad I decided to add a stop here on our time traveling through Italy. I will link below my favorite tours for wine tasting in Sicily and even trekking Mount Etna, an epic adventure. Here are 3 more if you're looking for more vineyards to visit after Planeta. And a complete route for wine tasting on the slopes of Mount Etna. And on a happy note, we are heading to our next destination, Taormina. If you want to continue exploring Sicily with us, remember to like and subscribe for next week's episode, in which we explore Taormina. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It motivates me to continue creating more videos like this. And if you have any tips for wine tasting in Sicily, leave a comment below so all the travelers traveling to Sicily can read your comments and find new places to check out in Sicily. Till next time.